So, Bob, we don't have that many emails, actually. So if people out there want to send us some questions, they can do so.
Maybe the world is cured.
I mean, that is the goal.
Yeah, right.
This first email is from annual long-term patron Justin from Bellingham. Good old Justin. They say, since you sometimes talk about posts on the therapists subreddit, I thought I would flag this one for you. It seems like the sort of thing you might have opinions about, and I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Thank you for all your amazing work that you and Stacy, Umberto, Rebecca, and Bob, and Alina do. End of email. Justin, thanks for remembering Alina in there. So this post on the therapists subreddit is a screenshot from a website of Serenity Mental Health Centers, which is a psychiatry conglomerate based in Denver, Colorado, as far as I can tell. And it has a graphic. Actually, I'll share it with you.
Okay.
So you can see it like I can right now, Bob, and it has the following on this graphic. It says, "Why psychiatry over talk therapy?" So this is a graphic trying to advertise psychiatry is better than talk therapy. Okay. So then it says, recognizing when to seek psychiatry over talk therapy is crucial for your mental health journey. Consulting with a Serenity psychiatrist can provide the comprehensive care and support you need. Okay, just, that first bit, recognizing when to seek psychiatry over talk therapy. What do you think about that so far?
Yeah, one should be mindful of what one is seeking and get the best treatment available. Psychiatry has a role to play in that.
Yeah.
But
then we go down here, and it has that sort of classic check mark versus X graphic that you might see like on different plans, like Netflix Pro, and it'll list all the different benefits of Pro versus Basic, and there'll be, check marks and anyway. So in the columns, you have psychiatry and talk therapy. So the first thing they say, effective treatment options that only require one appointment every 45 to 90 days. And psychiatry, check mark, talk therapy, X mark. I don't know if I'm describing this very well. Basically, what they're saying here is that with psychiatry, they offer effective treatment options that only requires one appointment every 45 to 90 days, whereas talk therapy does not offer that option. What do you think about that?
Well, it's misleading. It's a misleading sentence, because of course, effective psychiatric appointments where you're getting a med check, which is generally what that means, do not require that you go every fucking week. You go every 45 or 90 days. Fine, dig it. Shit, my wife goes to her guy once a year. So they could just write that. But effective treatment options that only require, what does it require? I can't quite read it.
Requires one appointment every 45 to 90 days.
Yeah, but the implication is that if you go to talk therapy, thanks. If you go to talk therapy, let's see, what am I trying to say here? That if you went to talk therapy every 45 or 90 days, it wouldn't help. But this is an apples and orange misleading statement.
Exactly. It's apples and oranges.
So dumb.
If you said that psychiatry offers effective treatment options that only require one appointment every 45 to 90 days, and then you said, and dentistry doesn't offer that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, because psychiatry, psychotropics, are a completely different vector of treatment options.
Good word.
And talk therapy offers things. You could do the same thing against psychiatry. You could say talk therapy provides ongoing support that's every week that actually listens to you. Psychiatry doesn't do that. Well, yeah, because that's not what med management is for. These are two different forms of treatment.
This is undermining good treatment, because people are going to read this and not understand that they're being hornswoggled by some sophisticated, carefully worded marketing bullshit.
Yeah.
This is really fucking annoying.
Yeah. Next line, board-certified doctors with years of training and access to robust treatment options. Psychiatry does offer this. Talk therapy does not.
That's false on the face of it.
Right. How so?
Well, first off, psychologists are doctors, and they are certified by a board, right, or whatever. I mean, they might.
There's also doctoral level counselors,
Counselors.
marriage and family therapists, and social workers.
Right. Exactly. So
And they wouldn't be quote unquote board certified, although there probably are board certification, but not the type of board certified what they're talking about here,
Yeah.
because they're talking about board certified doctors, medical professionals.
Yeah. So, but any good therapist worth their salt has done rigorous training, and there's no reason to think that that's any less rigorous for what it's for than what a doctor goes through to get through medical school and psychiatry.
Right.
But
yeah, the way that this is marketing itself is that, psychiatry provides this robust medical treatment option, whereas talk therapy, the implication is that talk therapists are not educated, don't know what they're doing, essentially, right?
yeah, that's exactly the implication.
Yeah.
The real problem I have with this, though, is if I wanted to talk to somebody about my problems and I really wanted somebody to listen, the problem with fucking psychiatrists and the medical people is that they can hang a shingle and say they do therapy with no fucking training.
Well,
None.
very, very little training.
Right, very little training, right? Like
Potentially no supervision,
no nothing.
no
But because
mentorship, yeah.
because you have this thing, you have this one area of expertise or knowledge or whatever that doesn't translate into doing another. I think that there probably are very good people who have a medical background, like in psychiatry or nurse practitioners or whatever, who are great therapists.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true, though. I think that's a dying breed. Because we're so, I mean, you can make this claim about the medical field is kind of fucked because we are specialized in everything. Everything's a specialty, and the specialists don't talk to one another. My dad was sick. He had 8 different specialists, and my brother had to coordinate them all. And, he's a lawyer. How does he know if my brother did a great job with it, but, he's not a medical person. So, anyways, having a lot of specialties, you could make a case that, we're a little... that there's a downside to that. But most medical people do not have training as skilled therapist clinicians. And there is lots of evidence that good therapy is good treatment. It isn't med treatment, right? I'm thinking about OCD right now. Like the gold standard in OCD is SSRIs plus prolonged exposure. That's the gold standard. That just SSRIs is insufficient. It doesn't help. Just talk therapy has some benefit, but it's not the gold standard because SSRIs do help. And so what you really should do if you have OCD is you should look into both.
Well, SSRIs can help.
Can help.
And if I were to, when you look at the data, the standard of care when it comes to OCD and other related ailments, the talk therapy standard of care, it has a much higher effectiveness rating, or it's early in the morning and my brain isn't working quite right. But the chance of symptom reduction, or if not full remission, with those forms of talk therapy is much higher than with any medication. That isn't to say
alone.
That isn't, but even with addition of meds, people will, when you take the large populations of people, then you see on average meds plus talk therapy is the most likely to help, but it doesn't help for everyone, obviously.
Right.
And
right, of course.
These meds are, kind of hit or miss. For the people that hit, it is a godsend.
Yeah.
And for the people that hit, sometimes they don't need talk therapy at all because the medication is so effective. You know what I mean? So I just want to clarify on that because, the way the initial studies about SSRIs, and, we're talking about a large class of medications across a wide swath of applications and diagnoses, but the initial findings research-wise in terms of how likely it is to help people over time has, dropped significantly.
Yeah.
Closing the gap between placebo and meds.
Right.
Whereas with the prolonged exposure for
Right.
generalized anxiety or phobias or PTSD or OCD or something,
Yeah.
that has not dropped at all.
Yeah.
If anything, the average effectiveness is probably going up because there's more people that are understanding it and
Right.
trained in it
Training
and that sort
it.
of thing.
Yep.
So, but absolutely, if I have a client who is suffering from one of these ailments, I will absolutely suggest pretty heavily that they try out some meds.
Fuck yeah.
Because it can really help. But anyway,
Agree.
so yeah, this next item, it says psychiatrists are covered under most insurance plans as an essential medical service, whereas talk therapy is not.
That's just a lie.
Yeah, that's just a fucking lie. Just straight up. And there's no way to, some of these other things, it's like, okay, yeah, board certified doctors. Yeah. In all likelihood, the talk therapist is not going to be a board certified doctor because why would you become a board certified doctor if you want to provide talk therapy?
Yeah.
But this other thing, and this is, I've seen this from psychiatrists and medical people sometimes, that they just have no idea how counselors and marriage and family therapists operate. They think that we're not covered by insurance sometimes. And it's
Weird.
just like, just because your head invented an idea doesn't make it true.
I can't imagine that whoever it is that was in charge of publishing this didn't already know that and knew that they were publishing a lie. And what they're doing is creating a sense of artificial competition by telling the public that there's apples and there's oranges.
Yeah.
But there aren't. I mean, come on, man. It depends on what. Sometimes you want an apple. Sometimes you want a fucking orange.
Yeah. And I'm quite sure there are posts made by talk therapists that are similarly straw manning psychiatry for sure.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But Justin sent me this, so this is what we're reading.
Yeah, man.
The next item, ability to prescribe and or change medication in order to offer more immediate relief of symptoms. Psychiatry does offer this. Talk therapy does not.
Well, that's misleading in the fact that any med change is going to offer immediate relief of symptoms. That might happen. It also might not happen. A lot of them are long actors, and so it takes like 2 weeks or 4 weeks to even find out.
Right.
And then there's so many damn variables. Sometimes I wonder, how do I know that my meds are working?
Yeah.
Right? Because there's so many ups and downs in my life. The meds are just one variable. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yes, talk therapists, generally speaking, are not medication prescribers. Occasionally that might be true, but it's a rare case. So yeah, therapists generally don't prescribe medications.
Yeah, but you could have, so if you wanted to do the opposite, if you were the asshole talk therapist that was doing a similar graphic, you would say therapy that doesn't involve physical side effects. Talk therapy, yes. Psychiatry, no. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, it's so stupid.
Yeah, right.
And talk about insecure, right? I mean, whoever made this, it obviously had a bone to pick with talk therapy. Like they felt in competition, like people were talking more about psychotherapy and counseling, and they're just like, hey, what about us? Us psychiatrists over here just waiting to help you. Anyway, the last item is, can treat even the most severe mental health issues, such as treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, ADHD, PTSD, and OCD. Psychiatry can treat even the most severe mental health issues. Talk therapy cannot.
Wow. That's just where to begin. Holy cow, that's just false. This is just so bad. You know, have you met any poor shrinks?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? Like this is clearly a ploy to get more money.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you look at their website, it just seems like, I mean, God bless. I'm guessing the psychiatrists are fine, but
yeah, that's probably
whoever was in charge of this post, whoever's in charge of the website, sometimes it's some marketing person or some tech disruptor. We're trying to disrupt the psychiatry services of the world. And they come up with some bullshit like this.
This is open to being sued. These are the last two are published lies. And the first three are misleading. But I could imagine particularly that last one, like even treat even the most severe mental health issues such as blah, 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 depression, ADHD, PTSD, OCD. Like if somebody said, oh, I didn't seek treatment because of your fucking website because I thought talk therapy wouldn't help, or my daughter didn't seek treatment and then she killed herself, right? Because of what you published on your website. I mean, like I wouldn't put this on my website in the opposite direction just to avoid the hassle, the fucking liability. This is stupid.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm guessing they're getting at is that with treatment-resistant depression in particular, you could have someone who can... But the thing with treatment-resistant depression is what we're mainly talking about is that they are resistant to meds. The various antidepressants have been tried in a meaningful way over a number of years, and the individual is still severely depressed. And I've worked with clients like that.
It's tragic.
And of course, I've provided talk therapy, but with severe depression, talk therapy can only go so far. As long as it's depression, and not depression because of trauma or depression because of divorce or something.
Right.
And there are people out there that are seemingly like that.
Yeah.
And this consortium seems to be using some cutting edge types of treatments, like with ketamine and with transcranial magnetic. I can't remember the exact terminology, but you use magnets on the brain.
Yeah.
And but it's similar. These methods are similar to other meds in that the chance of it working is actually not very high. But for those that it does help with, it actually does help.
Yeah.
In the same way that SSRIs help some people and other antidepressants. So it's just more tools for the toolbox.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're getting at, is that with treatment-resistant depression, they have these sorts of technologies that could help.
Yeah.
But you could say the exact same thing about talk therapy in that you can have someone who is, severely depressed and has been for a long time, has tried a lot of different meds, has gone to maybe a couple counselors and hasn't seen any improvement. They're suicidal on a daily basis. And then they find the right talk therapist and something clicks and the client feels inspired, or there's some trauma that was left untouched on, some way of talking about meaning and purpose, or some way of getting the family system in order or something. Talk therapy can absolutely be an option there. I mean, that's the thing with these kinds of stubborn, ongoing suffering conditions is that you got to throw a lot of things at the wall. Psychiatry, more cutting edge psychiatry, or more avant-garde therapies or something, screaming at the clouds, or even just non-psychiatry, non-talk therapy sort of stuff, like just going on a hike every day or something.
Right.
I mean, not that going on a hike every day would likely do it, but, for some people. Anyway, but then the rest of this is silly because they say, psychiatry is the only profession that can treat even the most severe mental health conditions, such as treatment-resistant depression. Okay. But then they just say, like, anxiety, ADHD, PTSD, and OCD.
Yeah.
Are they saying treatment-resistant ADHD? Because that's not a typical phrase that we would use. Are you just talking about any ADHD? Or are you talking about severe cases? And again, and I would love to see what they are claiming is a psychiatric treatment for fucking PTSD. And there's a lot of talk online about like ketamine or the psychedelics that can help. And we're in the beginning phases of these trials. But given the initial data and just the neurology of PTSD and trauma, it's extremely unlikely that these meds will do anything meaningful on their own. Now, in addition to our regular regimen of prolonged exposure and support, it could maybe accelerate things for some people. But the fact that they're basically saying psychiatry alone can treat PTSD is just completely false.
Yeah.
There's no evidence to
Zilch.
back that. Yeah. And it's just completely ridiculous because how could that even possibly be? How could psychiatry, how could a pill, how could ketamine, even psychedelics just erase a lifetime of of trauma? Anyway, so Justin, thanks for sending that in.
Yeah.
That was fun to make fun of. So let's take a break. When we get back, what do you say? Let's take a break, and when we get back, I said that too fast. Let's take a break. When we get back, let's answer some emails. What do you say?
Yep.
All right, back from the break. This email is from annual long-term anonymous patron. She says, I'm curious what a healthy level of support and involvement looks like from a recovering overfunctioner. I've been in therapy for 6 years, working on many things, and have become aware of my pattern of supporting my partners by taking on tasks or spending energy trying to motivate them to be more productive. So just chiming in. So anonymous patron is saying, I, with my partners or with my current partner, usually will overfunction. I will take on tasks of theirs, spend energy trying to motivate them to be more productive. And then she says, I also have obsessive compulsive personality disorder. Thank you, Kirk, for enlightening me to this disorder. My partner struggles with depression and ADHD. They have been in therapy for years too, and they have a toolkit of ways that they manage depression and ADHD. At times, when things become overwhelming, I still feel myself wanting to help and alleviate their pain. This might mean researching supplements or tools, suggesting ideas, giving reminders, etc. The vast majority of the time, I hold back and remind myself that these are not my problems.
Good for you.
Yeah. I usually just tell them to let me know if they need to talk or want support. This dynamic is something we keep tabs on and communicate openly about, but I still wonder what would be considered healthy support versus overfunctioning behavior. As a high productivity person, it's easy for me to convince myself that overextending myself by doing tasks for others is not a burden, but I know it's usually not healthy. I'm curious about your general thoughts. Love you all. You've changed my life. Bob, what do you think?
Wow. Well, I just really love your insight and your self-awareness. It's fantastic. And I wonder, what stood out to me as I was listening was, have you ever asked your partner if you're mindfully not solving all their problems and, whatever, trying to control that stuff? Have you ever asked them if they appreciate it? Because my guess is they fucking do. They really appreciate when you do not invade, when you do not presume, and when you give care that they can have freely. Because one of the things that we just need to fucking learn is that listening is something. Caring and paying attention is something. In fact, it might be the most important something that there is that anybody can do for another human is just extend care, right? So your willingness to sit nearby in connection, in conjunction with your person because you love them, because they matter to you, because they're worth your attention, that's fucking gold. And I wonder if you ever ask, like, dude, does this help? Does it help? My guess is it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with Bob that you have a lot of insight into this. And what I think you're asking is, because, it seems like you've figured it out and have a way of managing the impulse and will direct it to what you need to be directing it to, which is, as you say, I usually just tell them to let me know if they need to talk or want support.
Yeah.
And that's you just put the ball in their court, and then
Yep.
they can reach out to you. And if they don't, then you got your answer.
Yep.
Another tip that I will give over functioners is, how stupid do you think this person is that they don't like, do they not have thumbs? Can they not browse the internet?
Yeah.
Do you think they're that infantile that they don't understand that there might be tools or supplements or different ways of thinking? Like, it's extremely condescending to overfunction in this way. So, unless you have a viable reason to believe that they're disabled, some people have a problem, or they don't have thumbs and can't browse the internet or something, then, just ask yourself that question, because if they can do it, then they would, Now, they're depressed, so that's throws a wrench in things.
Sure.
And complicates things, which I'm sure for you is difficult. Also, if they're an underfunctioner, then they might assume they're incompetent and actually pull you into being overfunctioning, which I'm not hearing in your email, but could be a part of it. But anyway, it sounds like everything's going well.
Yeah.
But your final question is, I still wonder what would be considered healthy support versus overfunctioning behavior. So I think you're wondering about, I think there's probably two parts to this question, is my guess. On one side, I think it's just another way of your overfunctioning that's trying to kick in.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, but I think there's another healthier side, which is, well, it feels maybe cold to just be standoffish, right? So how do I... what does healthy support, what does non-overfunctioning love and support look like? Well, one, the word support is a little funny. It's a little nuanced, because support is something we give people when they ask for it, when they indicate that they need it. And if your partner wanted it or was wanting a shoulder to cry on, then you would probably kick into high gear and you'd be fine. So support isn't something we force on people. Yeah. Let me support you, goddammit. Right. So I might change the wording in your head, not just for linguistic purposes, but for meaning. Right. So what is considered healthy warmth or love or attunement? Right. And
I like that.
Right. So if you see him suffering, instead of going towards tools and supplements and what he should do, just speak from your heart. I notice that you seem down lately, and I hurt with you, or something. I don't know. Or just cuddle up with them, or just ask them, how are you doing? And then when they say, I'm not doing so well, you don't even have to say anything. Just have a face that shows that you care. Broadly speaking, we would call this support, but if you use words in your mind like attunement, because attunement doesn't involve advising. It doesn't involve giving tools. Attunement is you're vibing. You're picking up on the other person's emotional state, and you care. And so that's what I would focus on. And it's weird, because overfunctioners, in all of their support and all their obsessiveness about the other person, might have zero attunement, because they're not actually doing it out of love. They're doing it out of an internal fear of making a mistake. Often they are parentified and shamed and forced into taking care of others, and it can also be a trauma response. Like, if you had an alcoholic father who would become abusive, if he flew off the handle, you might have been elected by the system to sort of manage him, and when you would not manage him well enough, then he would fly off the handle, and you would have a traumatic experience. So, there's a lot of different paths to parentification or functioning, but this attunement can be so foreign and so difficult. And how do you have attunement and sort of involve yourself in the other person's suffering without triggering your own OCPD and overfunctioning? It gets kind of weird, but I think that's what you're asking. So I would just focus on that. Anything more on that, Bob?
Yeah, I saw this couple a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't matter. And one of the things that they were noticing is that when their partner is upset, they feel this urge to swing into action. And so I said, so it looks like when you think that your partner's upset, you think, what should I do? And what I'm asking you to consider is, my partner's upset. What do I need? What do I need? Not what do you need? Right? Like, so I'm thinking, whoever wrote in here, maybe you could just do that. Like, ask yourself, what do I need? Because the overfunctioning is, I'm going to rip you off every time and rob you of the thing that you really need. So, and
what do you mean by that last bit?
Well, the functioning, the purpose for overfunctioning is to do what? Relieve anxiety, make me feel like I'm a valid human, whatever. So whatever that need is, when I sense, a disturbance in the force in my partner, that's what I should pay attention to, because my partner is a resource for me, for fuck's sake.
Right. Yeah. Another motivation is overfunctioners assume that the worst will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without their intervention, and
Right.
are trying to prevent that.
Yeah.
And it's out of love, right? I don't want my partner to become so depressed that he kills himself, or so depressed that he loses his job, or so depressed that he becomes an alcoholic, or whatever.
It's a big lie.
Yeah.
So that's that Zen parable, the farmer with the horse. I know you know this one, so I'll just say it really fast. So this farmer has a horse, and one day the horse kicks the pen gate down and runs away, and no horse. And everybody in town sees it, and they're like, oh, that's bad. And there's a Zen master in town, and she sees it, and she's like, well, we'll see. And then 3 days later, the horse comes back, and it's got another horse with it. And they puts him in the pen, and he fixes the gate, and everybody in town sees that and says, oh, that's good. And the Zen master, she's like, well, we'll see. And then 3 days later, his son is riding the new horse. He's breaking the new horse, and he gets thrown, and he breaks an arm. And everybody in town sees that and says, oh, well, that's bad. And the Zen master, she's like, well, we'll see. And 3 days later, the army sweeps through town, and they press all the young men into service, but they leave the boy alone because he's got a broken arm and he can't fight. And everybody in town says, that's good. And the Zen master says. So I'm inviting you to consider that when you find yourself swinging into action to overfunction, you don't know if you're doing a good thing. We'll see. And there might be some real merit in doing nothing. Well, actually, you already know that, because that's what you wrote. You said, we're real good at the boundaries here. I mean, you're like the best overfunctioner I've heard of in a long time. That's fantastic. Yeah. And so I apologize if I'm ranting on a soapbox a little bit. I think you're doing great.
Yeah. Another angle of the parable is to see him languishing in depression for a week. The worry of the outcome, it might not actually occur that way. You don't really know what the future holds. The other thing, we've talked about this before, is to be a spouse of a long-term depressed person is one of the hardest things you can go through.
True.
It's hard at its base. Knowing what's happening helps, because it will be less personalized, like he's not showing up in this marriage, not because he doesn't love me, but because he's depressed and there's nothing he can do about it, or he's trying and he's doing all the things. And so, but it doesn't change the fact that he's not showing up and that he's down. And he sucks your mood down, and that that when you invite him out on a date night or to a family function, that he doesn't really want to go, but if he goes, he doesn't really want to be there. He's not really enjoying himself, and it just makes it really hard, and it's very isolating. And as a spouse, you can just feel alone and empty and sad But you can't blame him because you know it's not his fault. So what do you do? Yeah, it gets really hard. So obviously having your own outlet and your own support outside of the marriage, because not only is just having a depressed family member hard, but also being alone is hard. And with our isolated society, sometimes couples will just put up a wall to protect their spouse from the stigma. And even if people did understand or did know, they wouldn't understand it really. Like, I don't understand why he just doesn't like look on the positive side of life or whatever. You know, it gets really hard. And especially if you're an overfunctioner and you're just watching this suffering and you're just like, I can do something about it. You know, like one of the things that I've done with some couples is like, if you have to get some things out, which, you know, isn't a bad idea. You know, sometimes your spouse has good ideas that you weren't asking for, and maybe it helps. So, but how do you deliver it is the thing. And so one of the things that I've done with some spouses is you put it in an email, you shoot it off, and you don't have a conversation about it. And then the other person can choose to read the email or not. And there's no pressure to respond. You know, you're just like, I saw this article about this one supplement that might be able to help, you know, and you send it to them. As long as the person you're sending it to knows that you don't have emotional energy of requirements that they actually read it or do something about it, you know, and you have that very much laid out, and there's a lot of trust there, then the emotional energy from that interaction doesn't carry with it the bulldozing and the demoralizing, crushing, overfunctioning that can accompany that kind of behavior. You know, when you can take me. I'm a fairly high functioning human. You know, not in terms of like on average, but you know, among people that function in life, you know, I'm one of those people, I guess. I don't need any help. I don't need people to pick up my underwear in the morning or anything. You know what I mean? I do things on my own. Mm-hmm. And yet, if someone were to frequently give me advice that I wasn't asking for, even if it wasn't bad advice, you know, maybe it's just like, you know, from an outsider's point of view, you're like, well, maybe Kirk could actually benefit from it. It is really condescending. It's just crushing. And you just feel like, is that how you see me? That I'm that stupid, that I'm that incompetent, that I'm that irresponsible? Like, is that how you see me? And then you just start to feel that way. You start to feel like you're incompetent, like you are a child, like you don't know what you're doing. And then fast forward another 10 years and you are incompetent. You do act irresponsibly. And so that's the energy you don't want to have. And if you just stick to the attunement, and as Bob was saying, another angle to that is to just be attuned to yourself. Yeah. And I'll do this sometimes. I will say, well, when I see you doing X, Y, and Z, which is totally fine, you know, you're a grown adult, you can do what you want. But when I see that, it stresses me out. Now, maybe my stress is because I'm distorting what's happening. But I'll tell you that when I see X, Y, and Z, I get worried about the future. I'm not telling you what to do. It's not my place to tell you what to do, and you don't have to do anything to fix my problem with this emotion, but I'm just telling you how it feels. Again, as long as the energy is not bulldozing, is not pressuring, it is not telling the person that they must do X, Y, and Z to solve my problem, you know, sometimes that can help. And depending on the dynamic of this sort of relationship, sometimes that is the kick that the other person needs, you know, that kind of like, oh, well, I don't want my spouse to feel that way, so I can solve that by doing this. But it gets weird, though, and you're both in therapy, so I would just continue to talk about it. But
you just described a paradox, though. when I come to you with my pain instead of coming to you with your pain, then it can have this impact on you that can move you into action greater than any kind of good advice that I might give, simply because you care about me. That doesn't happen all the time, but that could happen. I've seen that happen. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the basis of good relationships,
Right.
is that, oh, I didn't intend on making you feel that way,
Right.
but I did make you feel that way.
Right.
And I don't want you to feel that way. So next time I'm at that Y in the road, I'll consider the risk of making you feel that way, and I'll choose a different path.
Right.
That is the basis of all good relationships, you know,
Yeah.
what it's like to be considerate.
Right. Consider it.
Is the key.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's take a break. We get back. Another email. What do you say?
Yep.
All right, we're back from the break. So this is the final email.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's make it a good one.
Yeah. By the way, go to the website if you want. And if you address it to Kirk and Bob, then Stacy will put it in that Google Doc. Long-term anonymous middle tier patron. She says, my sister and I have been on a healing journey together for a few years now, and it's brought us closer in many ways. We've built a strong relationship. We've left our long-term abusive relationships, and we've moved to a new city where we now live together. Just chiming in, that sounds very sweet.
Yeah.
For context, I am 30 years old, and I likely fall somewhere on the OCPD spectrum, not formally diagnosed, but your deep dives resonated deeply. And I had an active eating disorder for 9 years, which is in remission for 7 years now.
Good on you.
Just chiming in here, OCPD and eating disorders can go hand in hand a lot. That sort of perfectionism, and also OCPD, a type of it can have the cycle between perfection and kind of like binging. But the binging could be food, but the binging could also be not eating right, or not exercising, or not addressing your emails, or, you know, just so it's this oscillation between completely on the ball about whatever it is that you're focusing on in your OCPD, to just giving up and just I've been holding it together. I've been so disciplined for so long. I just can't do it anymore, and it's never in between. Anyway, so she's saying 30 years old, OCPD spectrum, eating disorder, in remission. My sister, 34 years old, has diagnoses including ADHD, borderline. She believes she actually is quite borderline, and she has anxiety and complex PTSD. She also experienced depression and suicidal thoughts in the past. So just chiming in, hearing that would categorize that most, the topic sentence would be borderline personality with complex PTSD as sort of a clump, because those things are likely related. And then the anxiety often will come from that. ADHD obviously could be just a completely separate thing, genetic, but people with borderline, with trauma, with anxiety can have all the symptoms of ADHD and even benefit from some of the treatments, but they don't actually have a neurological disorder of the executive function. But anyway, there's just a lot of diagnoses there, but that's just one way of sort of categorizing it. We've both seen major growth, but we're now facing stress to the system. I started seeing someone 2.5 years after my breakup. This is bringing up old wounds for both of us. I tend to get defensive when she wants to know details about my relationship or has opinions about my partner. It doesn't feel emotionally safe. I recognize it's partially because of my IFS parts fear. I'm making another mistake. So I recognize that it's because my internal family system part is fearing that I'm making another mistake. So this is an internal voice. And I'm shutting it down, keeps the shame at fear at bay. Her concerns get into my mind, and I start spiraling with fears and suspicions. Okay, so she's saying, I think what she's saying is that her sister is worried about her being with this new partner, and maybe even worried about abandonment. I mean, this is patron isn't saying that explicitly, but you can imagine, that
That's
could
what
be
I
a
was
concern.
thinking.
Yeah. And then as the sister is asking questions, which we don't know the vibe of those questions, but those questions, then the patron says that the concerns get under her skin and she starts to spiral herself like, ooh, maybe my partner is dangerous in some way or something like that. At the same time, my sister tends to analyze or pathologize men as a way to protect herself and potentially me from perceived danger or harm. Yes, part of it is checking whether we're still attracting men based on our old attachment wounds. While I understand that, I don't want the same lens turned towards my relationship in this way. Right, so she's saying, we both recognize that we don't have the best picker when it comes to choosing, and that's a question mark, but I don't think it applies to my current relationship, I think is what she's saying. I'm trying to build trust within myself to believe I can recognize and handle whatever happens, even if things go badly. So far, I've been doing just that, and privacy for me is a part of that trust building. Okay, so I think she's talking about privacy between me and my sister.
Yeah.
Instead of, right, it could be argued, who knows, just we don't know, but that the sister, although an abuse victim, might have invasive abuse spectrum vibes of, I feel insecure and my solution is to invade and harm. I'm in control through questions and suspicions and whatever. We're not hearing that specifically, but I'm hearing some reactivity from the patron of just like, boundaries and privacy is about trust building, and I'm starting to feel some rub there going on. I know she feels a sense of loss because we used to share everything, but now I want to process issues with my partner and not her. I've offered a compromise. She can write down any concerns or questions, and we can sit down together in a safe space where I can monitor my internal responses and avoid letting them take over. My therapist and I came up with this as a practical solution. Just chiming in. Bob, what do you think about that, and why do you think the patron and her therapist came up with that in the first place? Because it's kind of a weird formal exercise.
It is formal. What I appreciate about it is it's intentional. And if it's written down, I get a chance to kind of mull on it before, I'm in a conversation and my partner or my sister gets a chance to sort of, distill her concerns into, whatever I'm writing, a paragraph or whatever. And so it just slows everything down and makes it so that they have, I think the intention is to make it so that they have the best shot possible to actually having productive conversation. And when I think about all this, what I think is they're trying to figure out, how do we stay attached to one another? And how does this thing evolve, even though we're really important to each other, while I expand my world and I develop an attachment with partner? It is a lot. And I'm glad. And who knows? It might. I was listening to this. I was thinking about a client I saw years ago who had a hard time with her picker. When she picked partners, and the first person she picked, they got married and they were together for 20 years, and then that relationship ended. Then the second partner she picked, they were together for 5 years, and that relationship had its problems, but she shortened by 75% the length of time she stayed in a relationship that didn't suit her, because that's often one of the things that we talked about. And then the third time it was 3 years. And, so who cares? If the relationship with the new partner, I hope it's good. I mean, I certainly want that for you. But even if it isn't, so what? Right? You're working it out and you're giving yourself a shot. That's all anybody could do. So I think it's really cool. And you and your sister being mindful about trying to hang on to each other because you love each other and it's worth it to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That's your Pennsylvania use, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a Pennsylvania thing?
That's a Philly thing.
Like,
Pittsburgh gets yins.
oh, so what is it?
Yes.
Yins?
Yins. In Pittsburgh, it's yins. Hey, yins. How yins doing?
How yins doing?
Yeah.
And in Philly, it's how yous doing?
How yous doing?
How yous doing?
Yeah.
Oh. What I hear with this exercise, in addition to that, is a possibility that the patron has learned from experience with her sister that unless there's some formal boundaries around the conversation, it'll spiral because the sister will be argumentative and will start throwing a lot of things at the wall.
Yeah.
And the patron has learned from experience that unless she does something to head that off of the past,
Yeah.
it's always going to go downhill.
Right.
So that's one thing. And I'm wondering if the sister is in therapy. It doesn't. Did we hear that?
I think we heard that they were in therapy. I don't know if they still are. Down to work or
I
something.
mean, diagnosed borderline, so I'm guessing that she is. You know, maybe having a joint session of some kind or a series of them.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is that you, the patron, want a close relationship with your sister. You just don't want to be as involved as you were in the past. And your sister wants to be involved with you and definitely doesn't want to eventually be cut off by you because she's being too invasive. So she wants whatever sort of closeness you can have. She also probably wants a companion herself. And you want a relationship, or you want to be close with your current partner. So everyone can win. How do you get there? And what are the assumptions or the kinds of barriers that are getting in the way? And one of them is, in all likelihood, your sister's sensitivity to you moving away, a vibe of drawing boundaries that she is catastrophizing into complete abandonment. And it sounds like if she doesn't have a partner to spend time with, then she's just alone, you know? And so how do you navigate this new landscape? You know, it's hard. I think the fastest, most reliable way to get there is with joint sessions, maybe a third therapist that just does this kind of thing. To expect the two of you to be able to do it with advisement from your therapists, and then the two of you engage in conversation, you know, throughout the week, that's a lot to ask. You know, in some ways, you know, if you were having trouble in your relationship with your partner, a lot of people would say, well, you go to couple therapy. Well, your relationship with your sister is vastly more complicated for a lot of reasons, and to expect the two of you to be able to navigate it by yourselves is just, it's too much. So I that's what I would say. But short of that, I've worked with people personally and professionally in this situation, and you just want to have a mantra sometimes to say in your head, but also to say to her of like, I love you, sister, and I always want to be close to you. So whatever it is that's happening right now, I just want you to know that. I don't know if you're getting a little irritable with me in this conversation because you think otherwise. I don't know, but I just want you to really know that I love you and I want to be close to you and I want us to be involved in each other's lives. I just don't want to be... I also want my partner to be a part of my life, you know, or something. So, you know, because a lot of times the day-to-day conversations dance around that core issue, and the core issue is never addressed. Meanwhile, your sister is constantly probing for reassurance with that and isn't doing so very well and might not even know that's what she's bidding for. So sometimes if you just cut to the chase, because in all likelihood, that is 99% of what's being talked about and conflicted about from the very beginning. The nitpicking or like, patron, you're saying, my sister will ask me a lot of questions about my relationship. Well, you're not giving detail on that, which is fine, but the fact that feels unsafe tells you something, right? Because if she were just asking questions the way a sister would without it having sort of an energy behind it, you would probably feel fine about it. I'm guessing. I mean, who knows? Maybe you're projecting or something, but the questions probably have some threat to it or some anxiety behind it. And if you just put it to language, if the sister were just like, hey, I wanted to ask you a bunch of questions about him. Like, are you sure he's not abusive? Because I heard that one thing that he said and that rose, a red flag for me. I don't want to get into that. But what I do want to tell you is that I worry about you and I love you and I'm feeling lonely. If you just cut to the chase, sometimes that's all you need. And that itself can bring you closer together. You know what I mean? Anyway, finishing the email. However, it hasn't been taken up, that exercise of writing it down.
Oh.
My sister hasn't. My sister believes my reactions stem from my unresolved trauma and insists I need EMDR.
Oh, boy.
While I suspect that it works for her, EMDR hasn't been the right fit for me. I would appreciate any advice or input. Thank you for everything you do. I can't begin to describe how much your content means to me. It's what brought me and my sister together. End of email. She writes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Any final thoughts, Bob?
Yeah, what Kirk said leading up to right that last part that he read, I think is the right thing, which is there's an unspoken agenda underneath the advice to get EMDR, I think, or an unspoken response to it. So, it's kind of, if you want someone to tell you what to do, why don't you just go to the Serenity Mental Health Center's website and they'll tell you to go see a psychiatrist, right? So, what to do about a thing, even if it is a thing, is your business. So.
Yeah. So let's do an OPP, Bob, at the end.
Yeah.
So give me a letter.
J.
I wonder how many times people choose the same letter, but we'll find out.
I've got a M, a B, and
okay.
So this is my first J.
Okay. So you're keeping track. So we have Selena Jordan, who joined in 2016, 9 years ago.
Wow.
From Sacramento. So thank you, Selena. And we have Jamie from Brisbane, Australia, who joined in 2016. Thank you.
Golly.
We have Jay Dispensa from God knows where. We have Joseph from Converse, Texas, who joined in 2017. We have Janelle from Montlake Terrace, Washington, where I like to go to movies at the Cinnabar there.
Oh, Cinnabar.
Yeah. 2017. Thank you, Janelle. We have Jorge. Jorge? Like George? Jorge, isn't it?
How's it spelled?
Jorge? Jorge.
How's it spelled?
Jorge.
Isn't that Jorge?
Jorge. I knew that sounded weird. Jorge. Yeah. Jorge. You're right. From Daly City, California. Joined in 2017. We got, two J's. Julie Jensen.
Oh, love it. It's a superhero name.
From Cricklade, UK, 2017. I'm sure that is not how you pronounce. It's spelled Cricklade.
I think it's pronounced Jorge.
Yeah. Jill from Falmouth, Maine. Falmouth. I'm guessing probably
Falmouth.
Falmouth.
I think I've been to Falmouth.
Is it Falmouth?
Yeah, I think so.
2017. What was Falmouth like?
Oh, if I was there, if it's true, I was a kid. I know we've been to Bar Harbor and we took the ferry to Nova Scotia, but somehow I remember Falmouth sounds familiar, so I don't know. My main geography sucks, though.
We got Julia from San Francisco, joined in 2018. We have Karen Mitchell from Pasadena, 2018. There's no J in her name.
Interesting how she made the cut here.
Yeah. And then we got Justin from who emailed in earlier. I believe that's the same Justin.
Wow.
Joined in 2018.
A double mention. That's my first double mention in one podcast.
Jennifer from Evanston, Illinois, 2018. John Falstad, but there's a J after the F. It sounds kind of Scandinavian.
Ooh.
Right?
Is that like
Norway,
Fjall?
I think.
Fjall?
2018.
Yeah.
Jill Forsberg, my friend and colleague and former student. Yeah, so we've already talked. So there must be, anyway. Jan Rahenemi from Helsinki, 2018. So thank you for being a J long-term patron. I recently added a new category to the email form on the website to include super long-term patrons, 6 years plus.
Ooh.
Because, we had the long-term patron, which is 3 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
But, this podcast is so old now that, we've been doing Patreon for 10 years that, I feel like the super long-term patrons should get a specific shout-out category. So your emails are particularly, prioritized. Although for whatever reason we don't really need to prioritize any emails because we're not getting any emails for Bob.
What?
I mean, there's still
Everybody
other
taking the
emails.
summer off?
What was that?
People taking the summer off. Hey, I'm a super long-term patron, just so you know. If I ever write in, I hope to get priority.
Yep. And that does it for that episode.
I have this friend, Kirk. I'm not naming names, and I'm having this problem with it. Just working out my email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one I'll read because I have to because you're a super long time. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because
You deserve it.